So let's insert some data. So we'll say Billy. Password we'll just use as the same thing. So pass123. First name Billy, last name Garrett. Let's click go and insert that data. Now you can see that everything's done, everything's worked. We've got ID of 1 for Alex and 2 for Billy. So let's try logging each user in, and we should return now. We should return this user ID. So Alex pass123. Click login, and it's returned a value of 1. Now let's try Billy. Pass123. Click login, and it's returned a value of 2. So now we're logging the user in, and we're also returning the user ID. Now why do we need this user ID? The reason we need it is because we need to store it in a session, in some session data, so we can then tell that the user has logged in. And we can also use this ID to get any information we need from this table. For example, we can select the first name or the surname or both from, say, if we've stored 1 inside a session. That would mean that Alex is logged in, then we can get any data we need. So these are the fundamentals of a user login system, storing something that allows us to access data about our user, which can change. So one day I could log in as Alex, and one day I could log in as Billy, or another user could log in as Billy. Okay, so let's put this into a session. Now before we do that, we need to define something in our core.inc.php. Remember, this is included at the very top of our index page. Core.inc.php, we need to say session_start. Remember, we need to do that for all sessions to be able to use them on pages. So as long as we include this core.inc.php on every file, which we will be doing at the very top, then we're going to be able to log users in. We also want ob start before that, because what we're going to be doing is using headers, the header function, to redirect our user back to the index page when they've logged in correctly. So we need ob start, session start, and now in here what we can do is we can say $_session user_id equals user_id. So we've grabbed the user ID from the user that has correctly entered their username and password. Now we're storing it inside a session called called user ID. Okay. Now what we want to do is say header, location, and we want to go back to the index.php page. We're already on that, but this will just refresh it. It will perform the checks to say, is this user logged in, and it will give us some data out. So okay, so we're pretty much done there. Let's just go back to our index.php page, and we will create an if statement. Now, let's assume, create an if statement else, and then down here, let's assume, we'll ignore this for now, let's assume that a session called user ID has been set and it isn't empty. Now this means that the user has logged in, because it means that we've gone through the process of setting this to the user ID of the correct user that's logged in, or the user that's correctly entered their details. So all we need to do is say if is set $_session user_ID and not empty $_session user ID. So for any reason that a session called user ID has been set and it's not empty, then we still run this code. Well, we say, is it not empty, because we need it to be, we need it to contain a value. In that case, we can say echo you're logged in. Let's just escape that single quotation mark. Otherwise, we want to present the user with the login form. So let's just go through before I test this whole login process, because we've pretty much logged a user in now. So let me just test this, or go through this in my head, or not in my head, but with you guys. So we'll start from this bit here. We grab the user ID from the result of where we've already echoed this out, so you know what it does. We've got 1 for Alex and 2 for Billy. We set the session here, So this session will now equal 1 if I log in as Alex. Then we relocate to index.php. So we're already on index.php because we've included this. We can even refresh now just to show you that we're still logged in. So we're still not logged in. Now as soon as I type in Alex here and I type in pass123 here and I click login, we're going to process everything that we've already talked about. Then we're going to locate back to index.php, so we're going to refresh the page essentially. Then this check is going to happen again, but this time we have set session with the user ID key and it's not empty, so we're going to say you're logged in. So let's test that. Click in login, and now it says you're logged in. No matter how many times we refresh this page, the session is still set, therefore we're still logged in. So now you've essentially learned how to log a user in. And that's basically it for logging a user in. What you can now do is on any other page that you work with, say you had a page called, I don't know, tutorials.php, and you needed the user to be logged in, you could use this line. What you could do to make things easier and quicker is get rid of this inside here and create a function that allows you to quickly check if the user's logged in. So let's go back to core.inc.php, and we're going to create a function called logged in. And what we're going to do inside this function is we're going to say if, we're going to do exactly the same as what we've done, what we've just removed from index.php here, but we're going to put it in a function, so all we need to do is call this. So if is set, everything's set and it's not empty, return true. And otherwise up here we can say return, oh no, probably not a good way to do it, and we could say here else return false. So if we are logged in, we're going to return true, otherwise we're going to return false. So if you know about functions and if you've correctly learned about functions, you'll know I can just put if logged in, then it will say we're logged in, because this will return true, so this block will run. If we return false, we're going to include the login form. So let's go back to the page and see if that works. Yep, it still tells us that we are logged in.